Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.2.2, which I am attempting to make Kerbals a multiplanetary species. So I am currently recovering from a cold, but I still have a little bit of old footage, so my voice may change a little bit in over the course of this next episode. But anyways, let's get to it. Alright, so it's been about 25 days that I've rolled us forward, and we now have 25,000 material kits. So we get about 1,000 a day, which is decent, I suppose. A little bit less than 1,000 a day, but that's going to do for now. And this space does not need to be super duper optimized. Look at that. With the catch-up mechanics, we actually produced a fairly ridiculous amount of everything. No, doesn't look like anything got... There wasn't enough to actually push anything into... planetary logistics, or did it actually go into planetary, or would it have gone into planetary logistics if it could have? Because these are not actually allowed to go to and from planetary logistics, which is not great. Oh, this one can, this one can. Yeah, these... Wait a minute. Boom, planetary logistics. Logisticsing. That would be why none of it was in there. And planetary warehouse. Alright, so now we can at least pull to and from planetary logistics on those resources, which theoretically should be a good thing, maybe? Hopefully I didn't lose a whole bunch. That might be why I'm so low on everything. Goodness gracious. Well, anyways, we've made enough that we now have a good buffer to actually finish off the production. So let's just do that, and we'll be back in... There we go, 1 day left. Yes, here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and hopefully this will all work out just fine. So let's go ahead and put in for another 1 day, 4 hours, 11 minutes and 50 seconds, because this will stop just ahead. And I will go ahead and get these taken back, I think, but that's kind of just a little bit of an overview of the issues that we are going to face as we are planning our Duna resource base, because I am finding that I need dramatically more of the basic materials than I thought. It looks like the end results are easy to make, like it's easy to get this up to 5,000% production, but not so easy on just simple metals, polymers, and chemicals. So the answer might be just tons and tons of these material processing units, but I'm not 100% sure. Alright, so now speaking of things having too much productivity for it to be able to actually work properly, I've been babysitting my exotics driller because I found out that I was actually out in planetary logistics. We have not actually been producing very much, and we've actually shipped the vast majority of our exotic minerals back home for cash. So I came out here to look at the exotics driller, and it's not working quite right. What I'm seeing here is, you'll notice, let's turn down the time warp and stop everything. So as this reactor cools down below its normal core temperature, it has a 0.07% load. And that's just running the thermal control system, and the drills are both off. When I turn the exotic mineral drill on, however, it's running at 2,172% load, so crazy high, digging out 0.38 exotic minerals per second, which is kind of ludicrous speed. As you can see, that's minus 8.27 in resources window parlance. But you'll also notice that even though the thermal control systems, these giant panels, are at 20%, 20.5% cooling and rising, my reactor temperature is also rising above its maximum, and so the reactor load is reducing because the thermal efficiency is being reduced. And it takes about 84% of my reactor power to run one of these automated strip miners, and once it goes below that, because it's overheating, the electrical charge runs out and this thing shuts down. The part that I'm not understanding is why the thermal control system is not able to keep up. I found that if I don't like babysit this and like keep the temperature really high and keep shutting this down, the cooling percentage is not increasing at all. It was sitting at about 4% when I came here initially. And I'm trying to raise this because maybe, just maybe, there's like, it's just has a slow rise as far as how much it's able to eject, because I thought that these large panels were going to be able to eject enough heat to run these at full power. But I thought maybe if I kind of coax this slowly into like, look, it's really hot, you need to be rejecting at maximum speed so that I can actually run this, but I'm not having any luck. So I'm really not sure what else to do with this one here. So this is another issue that I didn't realize wasn't a problem, as we start to see that our colony statistics is getting pretty high. We have a 208% geology rating, which means all of our geology related items, or all of our geology related conversions, are doubled. So we are digging out of the ground at about double speed. So I guess maybe I need to try to send this same driller out here, but with smaller drills. But yeah, weird issues. Yep, and look at that. Even though now we're overheating again, my cooling is actually reducing from 21 point something percent. So really not sure what the answer is to this particular question, except for use smaller drills that don't need as much cooling. Or maybe more individual radiators are going to be able to reject the heat, or maybe dedicated panel radiators for the reactor itself to make sure that it gets what it needs. So yeah, lots of interesting design decisions that we are learning here, and to address the engineering challenges of getting out to Duna. Oh! So I guess that answers that question. So this, the mineral strip miner, which is also charged with getting a substrate, has been running at a nice, slow, sedate 86% load on each one of these drills for... Nope, just on one of these drills. So 86% exotic minerals on one drill for months and months and months, and that provided us with 1 million exotic minerals. So I don't think that's going to be any kind of issue as far as shipping that stuff home. Okay, well, anyways, we have our latest commodity return vehicle all filled up with exotic minerals and fuel, and it is off. And I will spare you watching this because we've got this one pretty much down. Alright, and so immediately after I say that, we roll right into actually watching this thing go. But I really wanted to show you is... Oops, lost it. Come on back now, come on. Is the stage recovery that I've been doing with the first commodity return vehicle that I sent. So you see I got about 47,000 funds back, or 46,000 funds back from the transfer stage, which actually made it home propulsively, which is nice. And then a whopping 9.6 million from the actual vessel itself. So I think we got this down. Okay, so I have sent all of our ships back home, the commodity return vessels, and I'm trying to do it through stage recovery just to save myself some time. It looks like this time around I was not able to save the what do you call it, the transfer stage, the Rhino-based transfer stage, which is pretty unfortunate, but that's fine. It was only worth 46,000 funds, but the important part is this, and this we got back at 95%. Or 91% total between distance and speed. I've seen this do a little bit better, but whatever, I'm not that worried about it. We still got 10 million funds back from that, which gives us 5 million funds that we have, or not 5, but 50 million funds, which we can use to get an Alcubierre drive to play with. Ooh, so that should be interesting and will change everything dramatically forever. Alright, so the thing I might end up using using my Alcubierre drive for to begin with is to get radiators out here to the far horizons. Is that ridiculous? Is that really silly? A silly reason to spin up the first warp drive in existence in Kerbal history? Maybe, but I think I'm going to do it anyways. One thing that I wanted to go over before we move on is some of you have suggested the MKS Explainer mod to me, which is actually really fantastic for trying to figure out exactly how this whole production chain works and breaking it down a little bit into the more discernible discrete chunks. This was put together by someone in the community that kind of reverse engineers the code, from my understanding. So it's not like dynamic and built in, but it is based on the actual numbers that are used by MKS to arrive at the percentages and so forth that they get. So that means that it may break if there's a big change in balance, but it's good to go for now at least. And the more important thing for me, because I'm not interested in getting like the exact set of numbers so that I can start doing it more intuitively, because if you don't have any feedback, you're not really going to get anywhere as far as learning. So let me just walk through this really quick. This is the production of my material kits here at, not that one, but this one. This Tundra assembly plant, which after having time warped elsewhere a little bit, it's back up to the maximum that I've ever seen it at 4,898.57%. And I believe that that's because, in addition to the fact that, yes, my geology rating is 210% for Minmus, which is a pretty big multiplier on everything. For some reason, the catch-up mechanic is giving me additional chemicals, metals, and polymers, even though I was stuck on that prior. So I'm not sure how that works, but I'm imagining it's the kind of thing where if I were to time warp a long period with this, it would eventually kind of drain this and then balance out. Because if we take a look over here, I am actually using them up. But I'm going to take this for now because this gives me kind of the maximum production that I've seen. So you see minus 0.4 material kits. So we're producing material kits pretty darn quickly, which is excellent. So anyways, going into the MKS Explainer, what I got from this is you can see, just kind of walking through, where all your bonuses come from. So you see material kits activated. Okay, so the first thing is the specialist bonus, which we have at 0.65. This appears to be built on 0.05 as a base plus 0.2 per level, which gives me 0.65, which that doesn't make sense. I figured that would be level 3, as if he's level 3. That's strange. I guess level 0 counts as a level. So anyways, yeah, so I guess it starts counting up from 0, which makes sense. So 0, 1, 2, so that's 0.6. So that's the maximum would then be 1.2, which is pretty great. So yeah, that's what the specialist bonus is. The bays is how many bays are in here that are assigned to this particular task. So material kits out of 3. Machinery is 1. That just means that if you have anything less than 2,000 machinery, then you're going to get a penalty. And then it adds the geology bonus. And then this is the tricky part. This is the part that I was having a hard time understanding, because this all makes pretty intuitive sense, but the efficiency is the part that I didn't quite grok. So we have active workshop in Tundra Workshop 2.5. which is this one here. So this is the Tundra Workshop 2.5, and that adds an E multiplier of 3.855 based on its machinery and the governor that I have set. Then there are 2 workshops in the Ranger Workshops, which is these 2 here. Finally, there is user of workshop, Tundra Assembly Plant Material Kits. Oh, user of workshop. Okay. So, yeah. So that's the key here, is you see that it adds up these different efficiency bonuses, because we get 3.85, 15, and 15 from those 2 workshops, and that's based on their mass, from my understanding. And then it's how many users of that efficiency is there. So you add up this number, 3.85, 15, 15, and then divide it by the number of users. So there's only one thing that I have, one discrete converter that is actually using material kits, and it's this 2-bay assembly plant, which gives me a total efficiency part bonus of 8.54. Then we get to the whole big math bit, where we take the specialist bonus, 0.65, times a number of bays, so times 2, times a required resources, which means, you know, we have the resources, so that's 1. So it would actually just divide your production speed, your load speed, if you didn't have all the resources on hand. Your geology bonus, twice, it looks like. And then your efficiency parts bonus, so that 8.54. And that 8.54 gives us the massive, almost 5,000% load. So you can see that that's where all of this load comes from, is we just get a massive multiplier based on all of these efficiency parts. These are actually great because they're, you know, so heavy with machinery that they get so much mass that they end up being really, really helpful towards the efficiency rating of the assembly plant. And this is also going to go down if I have other things active. So if I were to, for example, start specialized parts, start machinery, colony supplies. I don't have any organics, but that's fine. You'll notice the load's gone down because now the efficiency that is being provided by these inflatables is being spread out between all the different assembly plants that I have, the different conversion processes. And this is why I was having such a hard time understanding why I was not getting very much, why I was getting such low loads on my different basic materials, so the metals, polymers, and chemicals. That's because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different processes, and let's open up this explainer. Ba-doom. So if we look down, I'm scrolling in and out on everything here. So we see the same sort of thing, 0.65 specialist bonus. Desley, once again, is the most superior person. Machinery 1, geology bonus of 2.1. You'll see that the Ranger smelters that I'm using for help on this, I don't actually use those, but these little smelters give me practically nothing. 0.83 they add to the multiplier, so that's nothing. The MKS processors, that's these guys, these 2.5 meter processors with only 650 machinery, they give a 1.73 contribution to the refining process, and I have 3 of them, which is, I mean, it's nice. It's 1.73 a piece, and they add together. But you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different users, and so we add just this, but then we're dividing it by that number, which is it ends up being a huge number, and we wind up with just 1.25% efficiency. So we're getting an incredible buff to our final product production over here, but only a tiny buff to our intermediate product creation. And you'll see that it goes down and it talks about this exact same equation for each of the 3 different item or intermediate products per stage over here. So that's the issue. I believe somebody gave me the answer on one of my previous videos already, saying that I need the big 3.75 meter material processing units full of machinery and set to smelter. So if I want to increase the production of this base, that's what I need, basically, is I need to bring that in. And yeah, so that's kind of how that works, and that's something that we need to think about. So realizing that we need, like, it felt like I had a balanced amount of stuff, but really when you look at it, these were my only efficiency parts for refining. So that's something that we definitely have to think about for our bases in the future. All right, so it is time. I think we have 55 million funds from all of our work recovering exotic minerals from Minmus. So I think that means that we can afford, well, we could afford both of the Alcubierre drives, which are the pinnacle of technology from the MKS. Well, it's not MKS related, actually. It's Rover Dude has an Alcubierre drive standalone mod, which we are going to explore because that's part of the constellation. Yes, yes. So we could afford both of these, but if you'll look, the unlocked cost, which is the actual part cost in the VAB, is also 25 million. But for the 0.625, it's only 12.5. But still, that's tens of millions. So if I were to unlock both, it would cost me 50, and I wouldn't be able to actually play with either one. So we're going to have to pick one, and I think what we're going to start with is the 0.625. It's a little bit smaller, but I think I have a mission in mind that we could use to test out warp drives and to send this around and try to find some ongoing utility for something like that, because I've been doing a lot of research into how to make these things work, and let's just see how that goes. So purchase entry 25 million. Boom! Huzzah! Okay, so this is what I've come up with what I am calling the warp skiff. So this is something that I've been playing with and doing a little bit of testing on to try to get as solid and workable as possible. The design goal for this ship is something that can use the warp drive to get around the Kerbal system and execute a couple different goals. Initially, I would like to get radiators out to the far horizon. Like that's pretty obvious, right? Because we need to start our carborundum production. So let me just walk through how this thing is built. So this thing has a pretty standard salamander command pod, which is I'm using that one because it's very thin. Like it's not very tall, and that'll be important in just a moment. Longest communication dishes that I have, nice 2.5 meter remote guidance unit, just in case I need to go out of, just in case I need to fly someone who's not a pilot. Lots of batteries stuck on the side. This thing does need a lot of electric charge. Hitchhiker storage container with some food stapled to the bottom here, just so that we can bring us any number of Kerbals out and around. This gives us a crew capacity of 6. Which is a pretty good number for crew transfers, I think. You'll notice that there is, in fact, RCS on this, and I have little outrigger RCS pods here so that this thing can actually rendezvous and dock, because I want this to be a very multi-purpose vehicle. There's our Alcubierre drive. We'll talk about that in a moment. We have the 0.625 nuclear reactor, which is not actually enough to power everything running at once, but like I said, we'll talk about that. We have a little bit of containment for carborundum because we are actually using a fusion drive. So on the bottom I have attached a 1.25 meter carborundum fusion drive, which you'll notice uses double the amount of electric charge that the 0.625 meter nuclear reactor can actually provide, but that's what we have batteries for. I don't think we're going to need to burn more than... We have several minutes of burn time with the electric charge that we have, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Because with the warp drive, we have infinite tries. Like, we don't need to worry about missing our periapsis. We can just literally warp back to it. But yeah, then we have some KIS containers here on the bottom, which we can use to bring things around. So we can now transfer Kerbals. We can transfer a very small amount of supplies, just enough for who we have on board. We can transfer items for construction, which is kind of the primary use I'm seeing for this, is both a crew transfer and a item transfer vehicle. We can get carborundum, and it also has landing legs, so it can land next to things on airless bodies, because this thing has a fusion drive, and fusion drives don't work in atmosphere. Now, this thing is built, and it looks a little funky because if we toggle the bubble guide, this is what the warp bubble is going to look like. So anything outside of this space will explode violently if it's anywhere nearby because of the way that the warp drive works. Because it literally warps space, and yeah, it's bad news for anything nearby. So the design of the ship had to be constrained inside this bubble. But you'll notice we have everything we need inside here, and I've kind of made it work as best as I can. That's why we don't have any bigger of a nuclear reactor. It's why we don't have more crew capacity. We'll leave the big, grand exploring ship for when I'm able to afford the 2.5 meter version of the Alcubierre drive, which has just a massive warp bubble. But yeah, so this is our warp skiff. So now we just need to put a booster together to get this thing into space. Alright, so here we have the entirely unexciting launcher of an incredibly exciting payload. 3, 2, 1, launch. Alright, so I'm probably just going to spare you the details of this particular launch, but just know that it costs 14.4 million funds on top of the 25 that we already spent on the technology, so hopefully nothing bad happens. Alright, so here we are in orbit, just above Kerbin. So before we move on, let's ditch our lower stage, which actually should, in theory, be able to get home on its own, or at least burn up in the atmosphere. Shoom! See ya! Off it goes. So here we have the warp skiff in orbit. Let's open up everything. Let's extend the antennas. Extend the radiators. Turn on the reactor. But what we can't turn on yet is the Alcubierre drive. It requires about 900 kilometers of altitude above Kerbin specifically. I think that this number changes based on the mass of the body whose sphere of influence the vessel is in, because gravity wells screw with the warp drive. That's my understanding of it anyways. So that is why we packed a fusion drive with another small amount of carborundum, which we can use to get ourselves into a very high orbit over Kerbin, and then we can fire up the warp drive. And the fusion drive activates. I really like the way this thing looks and the way that the little mechanical edges just kind of come off the end there. It's very, very neat. Alright, so we need a 900 kilometer orbit before we can get into, we can activate the warp drive. So let's see how we do. There we go. Now we have an apoapsis of 922 kilometers, so let's get up there. Alright, we have reached our beautiful apoapsis over Kerbin. We are far away from the surface of Kerbin now, and outside of the gravity well that would make the Alcubierre drive dangerous, either to the planet or to us, or probably both. So now let's talk a little bit about how this works. So there are a couple different fuels that the Alcubierre drive uses. It uses a humongous amount of electricity to generate exotic matter, but it comes with a full load, which is nice. And it uses xenon gas as you actually use the engine. And it uses xenon gas and exotic matter and a little bit of electricity, but it uses a tremendous amount when you're actually generating the exotic matter. So basically that's just something that we can do over a long period of time. But the key to the Alcubierre drive is it conserves velocity. So my speed right now in relation to the sun is going to be conserved no matter where I go. So when I get out to Eeloo, way out here, I am going to be going really fast relative to Eeloo's perspective. So we are going to have to, what is happening right now? So when we get there, we are going to have a several kilometer per second burn, which we are going to take care of with all this carborundum that we have. So let's activate the engine. Shoom! The bubble has been created. It kind of curls in on itself a little bit here in the front, but don't worry, that won't destroy anything, I don't think. So that is our warp bubble, and we are prepared to bend space. And so now it's quite as simple as targeting Eeloo, pointing our vessel in the direction of Eeloo, and finding out that we are actually out of time. Ha! Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't mean to give you guys such a cliffhanger, but I am just all out of time for this one, so we are going to have to find out if our warp drive works next time. If you enjoyed this episode, please share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.